All right, Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. Bud, great to be able to chat it up again this morning. Have the live chat popping for those who watch on YouTube, and let's go from here. We always thank our friends at Tarpon Sellers, tarponsellers.com, coupon code Nolecast, and we'll always thank our friends at Charlie Park. But I went there after the game, noon game, as you said, in the instant. Does give you a lot of flexibility. Went there, bro. That place is great, man. I
Dude,
mean,
yeah.
it's you go there, have a little bit of a open idea as to some of the flavor combinations and stuff like that. I had a lemon curd toast
Ooh,
with bruschetta that was seriously like I would drive down to Tallahassee and have that right now, again, instantly. So, some absolutely awesome options on the menu. My wife had a drink called Taiwan On, which was kind of like a peanut Thai sauce. It was a great drink, one that you have, one of and thoroughly enjoy, not something you're going to drink four of or something like that. But no, man, Charlie Park is cool as hell. And saw a three-time legendary home loan buyer as well across the way. So big shout out to John. So it was all sorts of synchronicity. But Charlie Park is just a cool ass place and a place that we're real fortunate to be able to partner with.
another place that we are fortunate to partner with is Prize Picks. Prize Picks promo code Nolecast gets you that 100% deposit match bonus. All right, so I think I've hit 225s, a 10, and a couple 2Xs now for the listeners. This weekend did not go super well. Now, I mean, honestly, like, I don't hate the process. The result clearly didn't like the result, but I still had fun sweating it. JJ McCarthy, more than 14 and a half rushing yards. That was rocking chair good. He had 27, so almost doubled up there. Trey Benson, less than a 16 fantasy score. Just figured they'd spread the ball around, like we'll talk about in today's episode. And if you have a 16 fantasy score and you don't score a touchdown, it's hard to get there unless you're just having a monster yards game. Keon Coleman, 75 and a half receiving yards. That was also a pretty rocking chair. He hit that by the first half, 114 for him. However, LaQuint Allen, 15.6. We went less than 15.5. So he beat us by 0.1. Not really. That was painful. And then the Louisville game did not work out as I projected it to work out. So Gerard Jordan, the running back for Louisville, got hurt pretty early in this one, and we were more on his rushing yards. And as a result, Louisville had to throw the ball around a little more. And Jamari Thrash, who was also hurt, they wrapped his wrist up and he was able to go. And when Jordan went out, a lot more of the plays went to Jamari Thrash. Also, Louisville was losing the game, so they're throwing the ball around a lot more. And so we end up losing that one. So not a winner this week for me on Prize Picks. I'll try to do better. Still had fun with it, obviously. Know a lot of people have. And if you've been following along, obviously, everybody has cashed. And, you're even if we lose every single week from here on out, you're still net positive on the year by quite a bit. So, over under. That we talk 5 minutes on Prize Picks before they even get to the Knowles. Well, I thought we talked about some Knowles with the Prize Picks. Thank you, Laguna Nay. But we do keep the show free for y'all. So, anyway, thank you, Prize Picks, and
we also don't have any programmatic ads. If you notice that, we don't.
That's true.
We've never run a programmatic ad. You're never going to press play and hear an ad. The podcast is never going to be interrupted in the middle to hear about Napa Auto Parts or whatever else, which I'm not, but trust me, we have some great ads or some great sponsors that we're fortunate to have, but let's wrap it up so we can keep it under the under just to spite said Laguna. There we go.
Okay, I'll start with this. This is a cool comment here from Grippin. 24 months ago, FSU was 2-4 and becoming bowl eligible was the goal. Fast forward to today, 6-0, number 4 in the country, and bowl eligible midway through October. Hashtag Mike got us. Yeah, man, just a good looking professional operation. They just come out, took care of business, and it was nice to just have it go to script. Really, it was like that's just kind of how you thought it would go, and the score at halftime to me was essentially like the lowest possible margin that you could be leading by based on how the game was playing out, right? Like you were playing much better than the scoreboard indicated, I thought, and that was a pretty encouraging sign. You weren't lucking into stuff. It was a well played game. And what was your take from being down there?
Yeah, it just didn't feel competitive, to be honest with you. It just had that feel. I mean, um,
I think Graham froze, or I froze. Who froze? Is it me?
better ones that we've had recently. I'm hardwired into my computer, but I keep getting the internet icon pop up, so I'm very confused this morning.
Maybe it's me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Apologies, listeners, as
It's
I
be a fun one to edit and post.
stream of conscious here. No, I mean it was like I just it didn't feel like Syracuse came to win that game. It just felt like a team that was aware that this wasn't going to be theirs. I mean, I'm jumping ahead from the question, but the beginning of the half is one of the most like, dude, you really don't think like you're really hitting us with a truth bomb, just running on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11 or whatever it was, and then just being like, all right, yeah, we're gonna punt it back to you. It's a 14-point game. We'll roll from here. So it was a game that it just once Florida State scored, just felt like that was it. So yeah, interesting.
The number of design runs for Schrader, I think, largely tells the tale. Dino, I think, does a good job up there overall. That's a hard program to win at right now. I mean, to me, it's really hard in the portal era. Dino said it pregame all week, and I think he kind of signaled what was likely to happen. We knew Syracuse had been pretty busted up injury wise, and you go out and you win by 40 against a bottom half conference opponent that is kind of dinged up. And I mean, I think you were the one who said it, get to your corner game, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't take a bunch of shots, get to the corner, reset after the round, come out swinging in the back half of the schedule for Cuse. So,
Yeah, where were we? 40. I think I said 42-9 or something like that. I mean, the game was more or less kind of where we thought it was. I mean, if they don't miss that one field goal, you're looking at a 41-6 type game. And Florida State had the feel that Florida State could have scored 60 if they were super intent on it. So yeah, interesting game. Not a whole lot of injury, subplots to try to mine from the game, other than I think you're just going to try to have, it's just going to be getting Jordan through these games really, and having him as well positioned and hopefully as healthy as possible in the 2 or 3 games left on your schedule that you're just going to have to cut him loose on. That might be this weekend, might not be. We can talk more about that on Thursday. We'll see. So
totally. The line says he ain't playing.
Yeah.
You can sort of do this thing where you look at the board all week, and you can kind of predict the tweets that are going to come out from Pete Thamel on game day. It's like game time decision, but unlikely. I'm like, really? Okay. Yeah. The line says that, like, the backup's playing. So Tom says, well, let's just start with a look at the offense. Want to thank our friends at the legendary team. Chad and Shannon do a tremendous job. 844 FSU Loan. 844 FSU Loan is the number to call if you need a mortgage. They do a great job. I've used them twice. Obviously, you ran into Tom, who had 3 Nolecast loans through them. That is fantastic. More than 500 Nolecast listeners have decided to make the call to legendary. 844 FSU Loan is the number to call. Is Chad in the chat today, or is he working?
Haven't seen him. He's probably, I feel like we got to get out there a little earlier for morning Chad. Probably once 9 o'clock comes around, he's actually spoken for professionally.
Exactly. All right. So offensively, 48% success rate on the day is pretty good overall. I like that. I mean, Syracuse held them to 34. That includes garbage time, but I think we all understand it was a little bit better before then. You allowed 0 tackles for loss on design rushes, which I thought was a pretty clean effort from the run game. You didn't always hit the explosive run, but you hit a couple of them, obviously, on the day. Toe Philly was good to see. I've been critical of Jordan at times this year for getting away with stuff like he's had a number of dropped interceptions. That the narrative on him would be different if the defense caught the ball. The stuff he was controlling for much of the season was not great, right? He can't control if the DB drops the interception. In this game, I think he had 0 turnover-worthy plays, right? No balls thrown into jeopardy, consistently making the right decision, delivering an accurate ball. I thought he was pretty quick with it, honestly. And he would have had a much better game if, I mean, Benson has what, 2? I think PFF credited him with 3 drops.
Yeah,
and
3s.
Bell had one. Like, there's a ball that Hill, I don't know if it's a drop. He could have caught the ball. But, like, that's 4-ish throws that definitely should be caught. And we're not. And the narrative is going to be different if those balls are caught. So I thought it was a pretty nice game from Jordan, actually. I mean, I wonder if that's part of his frustration with his numbers not being great there because the balls were dropped. We saw some frustration on the TV copy. I don't know, how much else we picked up. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good day overall for the offense. And I thought he made 2 really nice throws. The ball to Williamson down the sideline is a really good ball. I mean, he stands there in the pocket. I know he does this fadeaway stuff. Like, the footwork's the footwork, right? It's kind of is what it is with Jordan. But he had a really nice ball. The other one, the ball he throws on the skinny post to Bell is one of the best throws he's made all year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's behind the backer in front of the safety and doesn't get Bell killed. That's a really good throw.
Mm-hmm.
So encouraged to see that. That was great, man. What'd you like about the offense?
This guy from Michigan State that they got that's turned out to be a pretty good get. He's been fun to watch this year, definitely. I still, I just watch the offense and it has nice moments, and you just know that it hasn't really reached its apex or even anywhere near it. To be honest with you, I like that. My favorite part about all this is that look, I've got faith ultimately that Jordan's going to be Jordan in the bigger games. I just think you've got a large enough sample size there to have confidence that your quarterback's going to play at a high level when it matters the most. Running game is still finding its form. I'll use that phrase, and you're still trying to find a way to incorporate the pieces and whatever your ultimate rotation is going to be. But for me, how effective this offense is going to be is going to be dictated by the offensive line, and particularly the health of the offensive line. And again, I'm not on the staff. I don't, this is not an official comment or anything, but it sounds like from a health perspective that you got pretty good feedback there. And that you were able to play guys who you're managing, even at like a granular level as far as some of their snaps and reps that they get. And I think you've gotten positive feedback from how those guys went out, played, responded. And I think Mike said this in his press conference that Bless Harris is pretty close to being a full go again, which is a significant piece. And to me, it's all about the offensive line at this point. And you're still trying to figure out some things and still trying to, figure out exactly what your best interior rotation is in particular, in my opinion. But it was a good day as far as the health. And I know internally they felt like from a responsibility perspective, like responsibility is to play calls, that it was probably the best day that the offensive line had. So I think that was a positive step forward.
I agree with that, actually. In doing the rewatch, sometimes I don't agree with PFF, right? And sometimes I do. We good?
Yep. Yeah.
So sometimes I agree with what PFF says, and sometimes I don't. But like PFF graded the offensive line extremely well and gave below average run blocking grades to all 3 tight ends. So I do think sometimes the issues with the run game in this game were more tight end related. This was probably the best game that Mo Smith has had so far this year. And like I thought he played really, really well. Thought Byers was okay. Roddick had some up and down moments, but yeah, as the offensive line improves, so will this offense. And I don't have crazy high hopes for this offensive line. I thought on this podcast, we were really consistent with our belief that this is a good offensive line. It doesn't have a lot of future pros on it. Maybe have a couple. We'll see. But that it had to play together with continuity and by limiting mistakes, right? Because they weren't going to physically dominate good opponents. You can physically dominate a Syracuse, but you're not going to physically dominate good opponents. And I think maybe they're close to rounding into form. By that Miami game, that's when you really need it. So we'll see if they're able to do so there. I thought it was a good sign too to see some of the young guys get in. Jalen got in, Armella got in, Hakeem got in and blocked
Armella
really well.
Looked nice in his play there.
Did,
absolutely.
Man. Moved around well.
Hakeem, that's why you celebrate getting back into the world of signing guys like that. That's just to use a phrase we used last week or 2 weeks ago. It's just a different piece of clay.
Highest run blocking grade on the team was Kentron.
Okay.
Second highest on the team, Hakeem.
Wow.
So they always say no block, no rock, right? If you don't block, you don't get the ball. Hakeem blocked his butt off on the series before he got the touchdown catch.
Okay.
So that was encouraging. Like he came in there, they didn't throw the ball to him in the first series, which by the way, I don't know if this staff wants to point this out, but if I was on the staff, I would. The boys to the south there who like to point out freshman playing time, last time they were a 19-point favorite, they lost at home. So not a lot of freshmen got a lot of playing time in that one. This one, you got like a full 20 minutes of the backups. It was, good to see. So a lot of young guys playing ball, man.
Had the feel of a game in the mid to late 90s where you would beat the hell out of somebody for 2 or 3 quarters, and then you would see what the next 2 to 3 years look like. Because you got to sample a lot of the use, and that was fun and great to see those guys get snaps, and it's just great experience, man. Getting Edwin Joseph and getting some of those younger secondary guys into games, and I mean Conrad Hussey's like legitimately into the rotation at this point, so I wouldn't even include him in conversations like that. But no, you've seen a real, you've seen some of these guys that are a little bit higher level high school recruits start to find footing and start to legitimately work their way into rotation.
I mean, Quindarius got 2 series, right? AZ Thomas, who we should remember is still kind of a younger guy within his career, played a lot, and I thought played pretty well. We can do defense now if you want. I thought there was a bunch of good stuff to take away from the defense. This is how you should treat an offense that is kind of banged up and maybe not trying. Well, actually, hold on. Let's bring this up. Our friends down to the south had an interesting clip, and I am reminded with all the stuff going on in the world just how nice it is to have freedom that everybody can have a podcast if they want. Now, should everybody have a podcast? I don't know. That's a different question, but I don't even know what this podcast is called. But
it was a fun one. That was a fun one to watch.
If every Miami fan who has a podcast simply stopped podcasting and went to the games, that's dating to be full. Like I am.
Would be a
what
noticeable
kind of Ponzi
uptick
scheme are they running in South Florida? Not that one. Not the one you think I'm referencing here. This is a different one. What kind of scheme are they running in South Florida that all these guys can make money on podcasts, or are they just doing it as a hobby? Like,
yeah.
If I podcasted,
I think the latter is much more likely.
My wife would kill me if she's like, "How much time are you spending on like just nonsense podcasting? You're not making any money on it." Like we don't make a killing on Nolcast, but it's it's a nice little side hustle. and I enjoy doing it. So I guess it is a fun hobby. But man, the clip, which I'm not going to play, the guy basically says that Keon is not elite, right? And that Restrepo is
Restrepo's caught a lot of balls,
clearly
so
better.
Yeah, exactly.
And that defenses have to scheme for Restrepo a lot more, despite the fact that Keon draws more than double the double coverage, if you look it up, than Restrepo does. I think most defenses, and I think Restrepo is actually a really good college slot. Like, let's be respectful here. I think he's a guy that is probably a draftable player, and I think he's a pretty nice college receiver from the slot. Like he's probably a pain in the ass to play. I think he's a really good player. I've been doing some early mock draft stuff, and I don't know, man. I think all these draft guys are just missing out on putting Restrepo in the first round. I don't
slept on Restrepo. Yeah,
it's very Restrepo, I guess. That was amazing, man. What are we? The co-host
if you guys find the clip, the co-host is exactly what I was going to say. The co-host is what makes it. He's just like, reminded me of something in maybe year 2 where we were fortunate that we didn't have cameras on us, and I would have tried to make a point that Bud was just like, no, dude, I do not agree with this, and there is nothing from a numerical perspective that would support your argument at all. But yeah, no, it was that's a good clip. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
So Keon has made a number of ridiculous catches. We had a couple people on the patreon.com/Nolecast ask us, what was your favorite catch of all time?
Yes.
I would like to hear from the chat as well. I think Cooper in the Orange Bowl in like 90, is it 95? That's a really, really nice one.
This is one that I went, Cooper. That was one that I had in the back of my mind. I had a great time last night before I went to sleep. I spent about 20 minutes on YouTube looking at a couple of different options. So I'll throw some out there. I mean, obviously the Benjamin one against Clemson is right up there because it's a very hard catch. It is kind of the national announcement of the 2013 team. It's a guy that when, like, I had a friend of mine who coached wide receivers who, as soon as Kelvin came in, was like, oh, dude, if we can just get this guy to work, he's going to be a first round pick. And it was kind of a quick culmination of getting him through, Kelvin, who looked like he would be either a tight end or perhaps an offensive tackle, back into Kelvin, the wide receiver. And that was right there, up there with it. I honestly think that I know this isn't a great name to throw around from a Florida State perspective, but Dion has 2 catches, one against Michael Irvin. That is one of the better plays in Florida State history. And it's not so much dynamic, but Kes McCorvey scored us a touchdown against Georgia Tech in the 1992 game to recap a comeback that, again, the play itself, it's a nice little kind of pause move. The wide receiver runs by him and he ends up getting in the end zone. But for our younger listeners, the 92 game against Georgia Tech is one of the more impactful and influential games in the program's history that is worth going back and watching a 7 or 8 minute YouTube on if you have an interest. But those are some of the ones that immediately jump to mind for me anyways.
I think we got to also the national championship game, Calvin, like, is it an amazing catch, but it sort of just highlighted like what he did was special as a player, to cap that one off. Both of Peter Warrick's catches in national title game.
That was the other one on my list.
The one where he smokes Tennessee, and then obviously the one against where like he's just being dragged down. By the way, can we bring back individual player introductions like they did in that Sugar Bowl? Like that was cool, that was pretty solid. Chat has Trick It to Green. That was actually, that was a pretty amazing play, for sure. Let me see here. What else do we have? Greg Carr against, was it Wisconsin in the Capital One Bowl or whatever bowl? It was the Orlando Bowl. I forgot what they called it back then. It wasn't Camping World, certainly.
This is the Graham Gano game?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he goes up and he totally mosses that guy. That was pretty wild. Yeah, Ben, looking here at the chat says Kelvin is number 1. Agreed. Those are some really, really good. I feel like from my time in Tallahassee, Bolden had a number of ridiculous catches on balls that were like insanely bad.
Yeah.
He did not have the best quarterback play at times. And, and still, yeah, he was pretty insane. The Champ Sports Bowl. That's right. Thank you, Lawrence. They've changed the name on that bowl game so many times, but I think the people who run it do a pretty good job. Blue Chicken says he has a picture with Greg Carr when he was 8. So that's pretty solid. Awesome. Keep those rolling in. Maybe we'll share some more throughout the show. Tom says, Bud, can you explain to folks why going for it on 4th down and goal was the right decision? Yeah, sure thing. So just from a math standpoint, right? Touchdowns are worth more than twice as much as field goals. 7 is more than 2x of 3. And so you basically need to figure out, what is the likelihood that you can score there, and relative to the value of your expected points on a field goal. Let's say your expected points on a field goal from that distance are probably 90-something%. So like, let's call it like 2.7 expected points there. You're probably going to make 90% of those, I would say, as a quality college kicker. Which, shout out, because he is this year and seems to look much better. So basically, if you think that the chance that you score is enough to justify that, then you should go for it, right? You call the play, you get the look, you run the play. If you don't hit it, you don't hit it. But you have a chart every week, because you're not allowed to use computers, but I think FSU subscribes, but damn near every team in the country does out there. They have this thing where it's essentially like a book that you can modify in game, and it says like time left in the half, down in distance, score. Okay. Optimistic, neutral, pessimistic. How are you feeling about the offense today? How do you feel about their opposing defense? Right. So it's not just like here's a number, you must go for it. There is some play. Like, okay, what time left in the half? I think I already said that, right? Original sort of likelihood to win the game too, because that matters and is more predictive than people realize. So, if you're a 21-point favorite, it may be a little different than if you're, a massive underdog. And time left in a half is important too, because you get less value going for it really, really deep in the first half, because of the value that you could stick the opponent with being a negative value. Like, getting the ball at your own 2 is a negative value, meaning that even though you are on offense, the team that is most likely to score next is actually the team on defense. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if you this is why I thought the Dan Lanning one at the half was, I know it's mathematically correct, but I think it's less so than the other 2 that he did in the Oregon game. So anyway, Mike is consistently rated extremely high if you look at actual decision versus sort of correct decision. If you're using like a blackjack card, just a kind of a blanket, EPA model type thing here, Norvell scores extremely highly on this. Like, over time, Norvell is stealing wins with his decision making. Not like one per year. And you're not adding like unless you're just committing total fraud and trying to throw the game. It's basically, you're not adding like 20% win probability with a decision. But cumulatively, if you make the correct decision, a 2% edge, a 3% edge, a 2% edge over time, it's going to add up. So JD says, I get the math, but I always prefer paying off a drive with points. There are games every week where more than 3 points or 3 or more points changes the outcome. Yeah, JD, but the problem is you're assuming the game plays out just as it played out in a vacuum, which is an incorrect assumption, because people's behavior is dictated by the current status of the game. The other problem is that's a feel thing. Like, yeah, let's feel good. Let's end every drive with a kick. That's not the right approach. You're not maximizing your chance to win. You're maximizing your chance to keep the game close. maybe maximize the chance to go to overtime in a close game. But let's remember, going to overtime is a 50-50 prop. So you're maximizing your chance to have a coin flip, right? Like that. The sport is evolving towards this. This is very much like it's a lesser, like bunting in baseball is worse than kicking field goals in football, right? But they've basically, if you're a manager now in baseball and you bunt, you get fired because the front office is not like we're not spending $100 million on payroll to have you do stupid stuff that we know reduces win probability, right? The same thing is kind of going on in football now. Like Jimbo's decisions look worse because the rest of the sport is getting smarter. It used to be if you made bad decisions and the opponent was like, yeah, we'll make one right back for you. Cool. Net, we're even. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, oh no, it's actually kind of not, right? So
punting is bunting, as a man once said.
Look at that. Exactly.
Good catches. I thought of one. The D-Rob 4th and 14 in the swamp.
Yes.
And it leads to Ricks to Sam, which is even at the time I was like, dude, why are you throwing it deep? It's first down. And then it happens. And PK comes back to the ball and then almost gets attacked by a German Shepherd. So that is a funny. And then you pair that with a UF radio call, and you got your whole flavor combination of entertainment. PK Sam. But yeah, no, that's another one that I'll throw out as far as maybe just be more most enjoyable catch rather than best catches in program history. But that one popped to mind as well.
PK also had a ridiculous catch in that NC State overtime game in Tallahassee in like 2004.
Yeah,
I think that was
Crow has a couple. I think he has one against Notre Dame in that game that they just kicked the hell out of Notre Dame.
Yes,
that comes to mind. Crow Thorpe was a hell of a player in his own right. Tallahassee product. But yeah, we'll keep kicking that idea around in honor of Keon's first quarter catch there against Syracuse.
Let's talk defense here. You stuffed 15% of their runs, allowed only 4 yards per drop back, which is excellent. I mean, they ran, I thought, 4 trick plays, or what I would classify as kind of like trick plays, where twice they did the quarterback shifts over with the running back and they direct snap to the running back. You played the one pretty well. You did not play the other one super well. You misfit it. I think Bethune's still working his way back. You know, like it was good to see Lundy play as well as he did with the limited snaps that Bethune played. Because I think he's still sort of on the comeback trail from getting banged up. The quarterback throwback. Honestly, anytime you stop that for like less than 10 yards, generally be pretty happy. You're only going to run that so many times a game. They're expecting that to be wide open. It wasn't. You also, I thought, handled pretty well. In the third quarter, they go like sugar huddle, which is, where you kind of huddle and you run up to the line real fast. They go to an unbalanced look out of it, and then they run jet sweep out of it. And you called it out. I ID'd it fast on the fly, fitted okay, and they got like 8 yards. Now look, or 6 yards, whatever. They didn't get a first down off it. There are plays in the game where Cuse is trying to get freebies on you because they're probably not going to beat you physically. And I thought for the most part, the Noles did a good job of IDing them in real time and shutting them down. That's what you want. That is like, of all the stuff in the game, that had to be something Fuller had to be pretty happy about. No explosives allowed on trick plays. Well, I guess they misfit the one, but that was kind of late in the game. The only thing he's probably pissed about is tackling. I mean, this could have been like a shutout and holding Cuse to like 120 yards. 13 missed tackles. Like that's probably the thing he's most annoyed about, if I had to guess.
Yeah, there were some whispers that the week of practice wasn't as good, which is not uncommon in the week following a bye week, because a bye week, in the game coming out, you're focused, you're healthy, and then it's kind of hard to maintain a similar level of focus. But I thought the missed tackling was the only thing that might have been emblematic of a week of practice that maybe wasn't ideal. That's also just kind of human nature, man. This isn't a video game. You don't go out and practice at the exact same level. There is some human variance here. So that was the only thing that I thought I was we talked about it. The point spread just didn't make sense to me. And ultimately that ended up being right. But there were some things that could have given you a little bit of caution before you just wholeheartedly went in on the Noles. What it was 17 and a half and then moved to 18 and a half within the 24 hours of kickoff or something like that. So
I mean,
interesting movement there.
You're going to get 12 versions of a team every year.
No, well
right?
said.
It's not the same team every single week. And part of that's the opponent. Part of that's, how your week was. People are human. like you mentioned, who knows? Maybe you felt sick. Maybe your girlfriend broke up with you, whatever. Right. So defensively, this was fairly close to their A game, I thought, in terms of coverage, in terms of playing smart, in terms of playing with great aggression. The only real knock to me is largely tackling. They went at Fintrell a lot. I think he had 9 targets and allowed 3 completions. That's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Payton continues to show good situational awareness, batting passes. He got another 2.
Yeah.
I think that's like
Josh Farmer too, man. That's we talked last week or 2 weeks, whenever it was, that I thought it was a great thing that Farmer was emerging and becoming one of your best defensive tackles. That is a good thing for 2023. That could be daunting as far as how it projects moving forward. But Josh has had a great year, turned into a very impactful player, and that's that happens. And if guys that you come in and develop and maybe go to the league a year earlier that you would have thought, then you got the production out of them, and also it's a hell of a lot better card on the recruiting trail to be able to talk about your domestic development of kid. And Josh is going to be a hell of a case study that they can point to. So
speaking of which, Charles Lehman, looking sharp in his YouTube profile photo, by the way, says, I'm wondering if we think / believe it will become more difficult to bring in portal guys from this point as high school recruiting and current freshmen are punching above their weight class through game 6. Grim, how would you feel if you had that problem?
I think that's just a good problem you have. And honestly, the evolution of portal kids will change a little bit here. Also, you're going to be able to sell a level of program and stability and opportunity that, you're going to have a 10-3 season and whatever this year ends up turning into, that I do think will allow you to be selective in a manner that you haven't been. And yes, ultimately, you want to build your program through high school recruiting. Now, at least my opinion is, other people may disagree. But when you don't have the resume to go out in elite high school and recruit elite high school prospects, then the portal's something that you can lean on, and the staff has done an incredible job doing that. But I think at this point they can sample a little bit of plate A and plate B as they so desire. And I would expect, I think the staff, I don't know. I think the staff will always have a presence in the portal. But you want to be able to go out and get guys at the high school level that are the most elite prospects out there. And frequently the portal may have 1 or 2 kids, but it's rare that you just have the Jermaine Johnson, and I know I'm contradicting myself because you've had 2 here, but the idea that you're going to find Jermaine Johnson and Jared Verse in the portal is not one that I'd get used to. That is an anomaly. And that's awesome that you've done it.
Who was the Jermaine Johnson this year?
Yeah. No.
In this
class that's playing. Yeah.
I don't mean for FSU. I mean nationally.
No, didn't see him. Haven't seen him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's watch the Ohio State Penn State game this weekend. Ohio State knew that they needed to take 2 tackles in the portal. They missed on the Ajani Cornelius kid from Rhode Island who chose Oregon. And I mean, to have to play 2 transfer tackles is a difficult proposition. I mean, you utilize 2 of them on this team, but where you're trying to get as a program, which is a team that is consistently competing for playoff spots, and consistently winning or competing to win the ACC for as long as you're in this league. That is a difficult thing to do strictly out of the portal. That you've done so is A, awesome, and B, is that something you should rely on to the extent they are? Maybe not. I think that the staff would prefer to mostly mold the guys out of high school, instill their culture in them. The other problem here, not a problem, but just something to remember. Because you don't get 2 transfers, and because they're cracking down on what Dan Wetzel calls the dialysis uncle type thing, if you take a kid out of the portal and you miss on that eval, and he's a multi-year kid, you're kind of stuck with him, man, because he doesn't get the free transfer, and he doesn't get. You can do kind of the shady medical disqualification thing, but you really can't just straight cut him. He's going to kind of still count against your stuff, and unless he hurries up and graduates, you're kind of stuck with him. Whereas a high school guy, if he doesn't work out, he can go find his level, whether that's a reset at a similar program or whether that's going, maybe down to maybe he goes to USF or something like that. So it does high school gives you better flexibility in terms of multi-year roster management. And they are doing a better job in high school than they were, 2 years ago. So totally agree. Every team out there is going to try to supplement their roster with the portal. And if you can add a crazy piece like Keon Coleman, I recommend that. That seems to work out fairly well. I think you're muted.
Yeah, that is a good one. Everybody had that in the back of their mind. Dr. No says it's arguable you've gotten one elite player every year in the portal. This year it's Keon. Yeah, can you get one elite player? Yeah, I think that's, reasonable to think. I will say Keon's a unicorn. I mean, Keon is like a dominant wide receiver who's an incredible practice player who's good in the locker room. I mean, that's a great blend. He's also absolutely hilarious. And I just listened to him. That's very funny. It's wild to think that Jermaine started on Last Chance U. It is wild to think that Jermaine was on that team. And it's even more wild that they ripped segments of the audio from the Nolecast on that show and then didn't credit us, which I will forever be salty about. And yeah, whatever. We'll move on from that.
We should DMCA them.
I've explored it with multiple attorneys. I'll put it that way. And ultimately, juice just ain't worth the squeeze. So,
Nicholson got 13 snaps. Justin Cryer got 16 snaps. Who else? Quindarius 13. Edwin Joseph 13. Barker got 13. Hussey got 28. I mean, you're getting multiple drives of playing time for these young guys pretty consistently.
Don't know this for sure, but I have heard as much as a internal whisper that Nicholson's posted the fastest GPS time of any linebacker on the roster so far this year, which wouldn't totally surprise me, but it gives you ideas to the level of athlete that kid ultimately could be. So,
agreed. Got a couple more notes we can go through here. Did you watch Miami and UNC?
Yes, I did. And both loved what happened and was also like, ooh, this team in blue has some pretty nice pieces. And yeah, the fact that number 9's back for them, that's if that's what you end up seeing in Charlotte, it's gonna be a good game. The matchup with Florida State is probably a little bit better than I would like it to be. But got many weeks for that.
Over under on a hypothetical matchup, 68.
Over.
Yeah, agreed.
Over. I mean, I think you're looking at both teams score 35.
Yeah.
Look, Carolina's got some nice pieces on defense. I mean, dude, the gray kid at linebacker, number 33, that dude could play for me any day. That is a hell of a looking linebacker. And they've got some nice pieces along the line of scrimmage. Carolina's got some things. So be something to keep an eye on. And did not let Miami run the ball much at all. I don't want to turn this into the Carolina podcast, but I was impressed by what I saw. Also, they beat Miami handily, and their quarterback had maybe the worst game he's had all year. And they committed 130 yards of penalties in the first half, bud. I mean, it was Mac Brown. It was a Mac Brown special, and they still ended up winning. They won by 14, even with a garbage time touchdown or whatever. I mean, they
scored 27 consecutive points to open the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did some nice things for sure. Impressed with Carolina. Carolina took advantage of Miami's safeties.
Mm-hmm.
Williams in coverage, Kenshin's trying to tackle people, didn't do a very good job of it. Miami's backers, I think, also got taken advantage of a little bit athleticism-wise. So they have some issues up the middle of the field. It'll be important for Jordan to use the middle of the field against them. I don't think the corners for Miami are actually that great, but maybe they're not quite as bad as I thought they were to start the year. Miami's got this O-line that everybody talks about, but remember how Spurrier used to kind of rib on Tennessee a little bit, and he was like, "Man, Tennessee's just a really good football team. Just some reason doesn't play real well down here." Kind of, yeah. They did not look. The first half defensively, like Miami does have some real dudes on the D line, like that can win them games, that can cause you real problems. The Bain kid is a freak. I mean,
they got some young defenders that are. I mean, Bain, the Nigel Kelly kid looks nice.
Messidor. Now Leonard Taylor, I don't know where he is. Like I didn't see him make any kind of impact in the ball game when I watched it. Offensively, it is going to be very important that you're able to play zone at some sort of level against Miami. Van Dyke does not do a great job when he has to sort of read it out and hold the ball and look through stuff. He's a sniper when he knows where to go with it, because he's got the arm to make every throw, and he's really damn accurate when he knows where he needs to go with the ball. But he, a couple times a game, if you can make him, he will look confused and throw you the football. I asked 3 weeks ago, and I think this is going to be a really relevant question come this Miami game. Hey, man, like, how many times do quarterbacks look confused against this defense? How many times do they not know where to go with the ball? That's the stuff that I think Adam Fuller needs to be in the lab, and probably is in the lab with trying to cook up. But now he's getting more games on tape of this Miami team. We'll see. We'll see how Van Dyke reads coverage. I don't know that he sees it real well. He definitely throws it well. Although he might be hurt this week, by the way.
Yeah.
You see that stuff?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too.
Yeah. Now they'll play him if he can walk.
You go play.
We saw last year. I think Miami's receivers are pretty solid. Honestly, like the George and Young kid
they're nice. Young's a nice player. Nice player.
And they throw the ball to Restrepo like a ton, which is nuts. Run game didn't get going a whole lot. FSU's defense is better than Carolina's defense, especially in the back end. Shane Brown is coming on for you pretty well. I like your chances there in Tallahassee. It won't be a walkover because Miami has real players and real athletes, and they'll play really hard.
Yeah.
Unlike some of these other games that they probably won't. They have not won an ACC game at home yet under Cristobal. Like, imagine being in the ticket office.
Yeah.
Try to get people to renew.
Yeah. I mean,
blown out 3 times, plus the Georgia Tech thing, and a close game loss to UNC last year.
Yeah. And if you went for an old non-conference rocking chair game last year, you got to see him get run by Middle Tennessee as well. So, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. Duke the backup, and we'll talk about more in the preview. They had a 31% success rate throwing the football. Duke did. Now, granted, the second half of this game was just a complete rainstorm, and they didn't try. Like, I don't think this kid is legitimately 4 of 12 bad, but that's what he was in the game. I mean, he was 4 of 12 passing for 107 yards. One was to their receiver Calhoun, is pretty good, 69 yards. The other one was for 9 yards, and yeah, it was just not great. A lot of passes to the backs. They only targeted their top 2 receivers twice in the game, so it was a lot of keep it safe throws. Let this guy run around some. Half of Duke's yards, actually more than half, came on 2 plays. Then an 80-yarder and a 80-yarder and a 69-yarder. Nice. So, yeah, if the kid doesn't play for Duke, Leonard, the quarterback, who's really damn good, I don't think that's going to go super well for that offense. And I think FSU's defense will continue to look better. By the way, after look, LSU's offense continues to look great.
Mm-hmm.
And they only scored 17 on you before garbage time. Now, should they have, are the 4th down stops kind of flukish? Sure. Like, if we ran it back, like, are you really going to hold them to 17 again? No, probably something in the mid-20s is more of a representative of how they move the football versus how they scored the football. But it wasn't like they were lighting you up for 40, Yeah. I think these early game schedules, these early scheduled games are going to look better in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
LSU has a real chance to win the West. Okay. Clemson is favored this weekend at Miami. Clemson has a pretty hard schedule, but there's a chance that they remain ranked as well. So I think you're going to start looking better for it. If you look at the the updated make the playoff odds, FSU is, where are they at? They still have the second highest, behind just Georgia. Although Michigan tied them this week. So the only 3 teams in the country right now that have in the Vegas odds that are more likely to make the playoff than not: Georgia, FSU, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Michigan time because of the Bowers injury, part of it.
I think it's probably just Michigan looked great again. They just moved up. Georgia's still like minus. What are they? Actually, no. Georgia moved down a little bit. You're right.
Yeah.
The Bowers is going to miss probably the rest of the SEC season. Right, 4 to 6 weeks.
What was it? What they call it? A tightrope injury? Okay. Yeah.
Well, tightrope's the surgery.
Or tightrope surgery, excuse me.
Yeah. So you get a high ankle, and then in order to, you basically just tie, I guess you just tie it real tight and let it heal. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it's a surgery that you do to speed recovery.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
From what I understand.
Interesting.
How are you feeling about LJ McCray? That's the top defensive lineman in the country. I feel like FSU is really in the fight here. It's them. I don't think it's going to be Miami, Florida, Auburn. Like, they're doing a really good job trying to recruit him. And that's sort of the battles that you have to continue to make progress in. Right. And at the end of it, we'll see if they can get it done. But I think they've done a pretty good job in this. Florida obviously has a really good relationship with them. I know Auburn's in it. Can you ever really count out a team like Georgia? I don't know. But I think FSU is just as in it as basically anybody else is. I was doing the DeLand Quarterback Club speaking thing last night and got asked about it. I was like, man, I don't think anybody really knows at this point. And it's one of those, a lot of times we kind of know, but don't like officially know. This is going to be something that they are going to have to fight all the way to the end on. So definitely a major recruitment there.
One thing that we would encourage you to fight all the way in on is the optimization of your business. Matt Lewis, fantastic partner of the Nolecast, and we're real proud of this, as we've seen all sorts of synchronicity with the people that we've chosen to work with. But I do believe that think all the properties of the For the Table Restaurant Group have now moved over to Congruity as
Look at
well.
that.
So great for Matt. Matt and his team have been working with Matt Thompson and the good people over there for quite a while, but they've, I think, moved all of payroll over to Congruity HR, which is just yet another example of why we love Matt and his team so much. They've got a website that they created specifically for the listeners of the Nolecast and Florida State fans in general. It is congruityhr.com/Noles, Noles there, congruityhr.com/Noles. Big thank you to Matt Lewis and the whole team at Congruity for what they've done for our business, what they've done for multiple Florida State related businesses, and the partnership that they found with our friends over at Madso Township, Charlie Park, and everything else that the For the Table Restaurant Group is doing.
Speaking of odds, FSU moved up to -180 to win the league.
Okay.
So I think a lot of that is just Louisville lost, which
Mm-hmm.
again, guys, we told you, like, it's really hard to go undefeated. Even now, FSU is not favored to go undefeated in the regular season. Like, they're still favored to drop a game. Duke, Miami, at Pitt, Florida being the four toughest. Your road game at Wake. Wake seems to have the magic might have run out as far as their ability to just get offensive linemen to play at a competent level.
Mm-hmm.
Vatek wrecked them up front.
Okay.
And we saw what Virginia Tech defense was just 2 weeks ago, right? So, like, imagine the Hokies wrecking your offensive line. How would you feel about that? Probably not great. So,
how would you feel about that? Yeah.
I mean, that's just for perspective, right? I wonder if Dave Clawson doesn't make a jump somewhere. Like, he's done such a good job there, but eventually it runs out, and they lost some of their best players to the portal.
Yeah, the portal's impacted them, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we have seen we've talked about that previously, that the portal has played a role for some of these lower level ACC teams. It's going to just make it even harder for them to make that climb, so to say.
Have you seen the odds on the Blitnikoff?
No, I have not.
This feels almost disrespectful. So Roma Dunze, Washington, okay, pretty obvious, especially after last weekend. 250. Malik Neighbors, 250. Burden, Missouri, 250. Marvin Harrison Jr., 650. Troy Franklin, 900. That's the Oregon kid. Brian Thomas at LSU, 1,500. Leggett, South Carolina, 1,800. Xavier Weaver, Colorado, 2,000. Taj Washington, USC, 2,500. Jalen Polk, Washington, 2,500. Keon Coleman, Florida State, 2,500.
Yeah,
that doesn't seem to match up.
It seems wild. Also, I mean, if Keon, yeah, I think Keon is but only one more just ridiculous game before he's, much more of a household name / whatever you want to call it. Although I guess it would be hard to have a bigger game on a bigger stage than what he did against LSU, but yeah, that surprises me. It does surprise me.
I mean, he's top 10 in the country in receiving touchdowns. I know that the yardage numbers are not there yet. Part of that's probably the blowouts, right? I mean, he's 71st in the country in yardage. But man, like, yeah, you're right. He's like 2 big games away from, from that. Like, that's, I don't know. I definitely don't see all those guys finishing ahead of him. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Johnny's at 45-1. Restrepo's 50-1.
50. Okay, I did want to get a Restrepo check in there.
Good. Yeah, we need to get a Restrepo ticket in case he just starts to go nuts. JD says portal is killing the middle class. I think there's actually something to this. Top 15 teams in the AP preseason poll are 70-1 this year when favored by more than 10 points.
Okay.
70-1. The only loss is Clemson's Monday night loss at Duke. And, when healthy, Duke's got a kid that's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So 70-1. Like, I wonder if teams now aren't maybe not getting crazy impact players, but like are the best teams identifying their potential holes and going out and addressing them to at least like not portaling your way to a ceiling, but portaling your way to a floor. I kind of wonder.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good way to phrase it. Absolutely. You can address the most glaring holes in your roster in a manner that you could never have previously. So
agreed. Do you have any thoughts on playing a guy who's missed a month coming off a liver injury, 157 snaps at altitude? we didn't get to talk about this.
And then question his love for football afterwards. Or maybe not his, but the team in general. Yeah, man, that's going to be crazy. That video that was put out, I've watched that. It's like 8 minutes, 2 different coaches talking to the team the night before the game. Yeah, that's telling. I do cut it. They cut it off right as Deion's asking the defensive line about accountability, and I would have loved to have gotten that answer before they cut that off. But yeah, man, it is a reality TV show. You're going to see content out of that is quite interesting moving forward. So. And what you said earlier, when the good news about the portal is you can shape your roster and you can shape it dramatically, but not everybody in the portal is a 1-year kid. You're once you get them out there, you got them for a little bit, for good or for bad, but they're there. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. You know what I would do if I was a Colorado fan, though?
What would you do?
Or if I was a Florida State fan visiting Boulder? I'd go to home field. I'd get that sweet ass bomber jacket so I could just walk around there and be very comfortable and let everybody know I'm a Florida State fan. Just passing through, just keeping an eye on what you guys are doing out here. And my nice bomber jacket that I got at homefieldapparel.com. You can go there, tabs for teams. And if you're a Florida State fan or if you're looking to do Christmas shopping, I've gotten some family members, some Ivy League material there. I mean, it's the full spectrum. So great to have in your back pocket as you address various family members. Christmas, homefieldapparel.com, coupon code NOLECAST23. And thank you to those of you who have shopped there. And if you do any kind of reference or mention on social media that's where you ran across them, and linking the Nolecast to it is gratefully appreciated from us.
They really do a great job. It's awesome designs. And I just think these new FSU designs are like even better than the stuff they used to have, like, and a noticeable step up in many areas. So a lot of our listeners have enjoyed it. Make sure you use our promo code. I do have an update, by the way, on something we've been tracking. I said on Cover 3 that if Florida just stops playing like dumbasses, they will probably win the game against South Carolina. It is difficult to be a good team when you're leading the nation in penalty EPA on special teams and also short yardage penalties. So this weekend, Florida, they did still have negative EPA and penalties, but it wasn't egregious. It was only negative 0.9 as opposed to like the negative 10 that will certainly get you beat in some games, as it has. And they ended up having a nice comeback win over South Carolina, and now will almost certainly make a bowl, which, they have an interestingly tough stretch, by the way, down the stretch. I don't know, have you peeped Florida's schedule?
I did. Yeah.
They don't have that cupcake game right before the FSU game like they have had, kind of like Urban Meyer started doing a number of years ago. So, yeah, they look like they're rounding into form a little bit. The defense maybe not quite as good as I thought it was, but the offense, they have Mertz playing pretty well, and we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, I guess I thought they were better than they had shown, just because it's almost impossible to continue playing that. Like, just,
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback who pump fakes more players off their feet than Graham Mertz. Like that would, I'm not a defensive coach, but that would be a point of emphasis for me, is to just
don't jump,
run through the dude. Don't jump at a pump fake. I mean, yeah. So that's just a random comment from me.
Beamer was beside himself. Did you watch the press conference?
I did. Yeah. And he's right about that. I mean, I'm pretty confident that's a message that was delivered before game. Just like, stop. So what if he throws it? Run through him. But yeah.
Agreed. That's about all I got today, man. You got anything else?
Nah, not a great catch, but certainly the 93 Ward to Dunn is one that we'll end on. That's about as impactful a play in program history as well, and just something that always puts a smile on my face. So I've enjoyed our walk through memory lane as we thought about some of the better catches in Florida State history.
Appreciate the chat helping out, guys. If you like supporting us, please make sure you hit that like button as we exit, and share the video as well. And I'll see you again on Thursday, buddy.
All right, brother. Talk soon.
All right, see you, man.